And one of the greatest startups that we have in the past few years has been WeWork. And I know folks from San Francisco don't really get the whole idea of offline. They're just stuck right here on their phone. But this guy has turned a real estate business into an actual technology platform that is now worth more than $5 billion. Please welcome to the stage Adam Neumann from WeWork.
It started with a promise, not of desks, of destiny. Two men from opposite worlds, one raised on communal living, the other in communal silence, collided in New York City and decided that work shouldn't feel like work. Coffee bars instead of cubicles, community instead of leases, a movement, not a company. They called it WeWork. Investors called it the future, and for a while, it looked like they were right. Then came the rocket fuel. A billionaire visionary stepped out of a car, heard a 30-minute pitch, and wrote a multi-billion-dollar check. Crazy, he said, but I like crazy. Growth exploded. Cities lit up with neon logos. Work blurred into lifestyle. We live apartments. We grow schools, wellness clubs, and world building. This wasn't real estate. This was religion. And as the money kept coming, the number kept climbing until the myth reached its peak, a $47 billion valuation. But behind the glass walls and kombucha taps, the numbers bled red. Inside the headquarters, the culture bled tequila. Flights that smelled like smoke. All hands that felt like after parties. Layoffs announced, then the DJ came on. And then, the moment the mask slipped, a single word, we, trademarked by the founder, sold back to the company for millions. Investors blinked. The world finally looked closer. The IPO filing did the rest. Losses no brand could hide. Control no board could check. A $47 billion dream turned into a punchline in weeks. The bailout arrived. The founder left, richer than ever. The company stayed, broken as ever. By 2023, the last card fell. Chapter 11, a unicorn reduced to dust. This is the rise and fall of WeWork, how charisma beat gravity, until math brought it back to earth. How a community became a cult became a company, and a company became a cautionary tale. Not about desks, about discipline, not about vision, about truth, and how a single word, we, ended up meaning no one. New York City 2001. The air was thick with ambition. Deals were made in dimly lit bars. Fortune shifted with a handshake, and failure lurked around every corner. The city didn't care where you came from, it only cared if you had the guts to make it. Some rose, most fell. Among the dreamers chasing success was a young Israeli with an accent so thick, people had to ask him to repeat himself. His name was Adam Neumann, and if you had met him then, you wouldn't have forgotten him. He talked big, moved fast, and believed he was meant for greatness. Back in Israel, he had grown up on a kibbutz, a place where everything, money, work, food, success, was shared.
As a teenager and as a child, it was the most unbelievable place to grow up. I was with all my friends from morning till night. We ate in the same dining hall. We drove to the same school, and then we all did our homework together, or we didn't do our homework together. It was awesome. As adults, though, I remember looking at the kibbutz and saying, so in a kibbutz, everybody makes the same amount of money. So one of my friend's dads was the head of the factory. He worked 16 hours a day. Another friend's dad was the head of the gardening. He worked 6 hours a day. They both made the same amount of money. So even though for us as kids it was amazing, I always remember thinking that it's not fair that someone's effort is not getting rewarded based on what he puts in.
It shaped him, but he hated being limited. He wanted more money, more freedom, more power. So Adam packed his bags and moved to New York, the city of hustlers, the city of deals. He enrolled at Baruch College. But classrooms? Too small for his vision. While other students were buried in textbooks, Adam was busy chasing his next big idea. First, it was an attempt at collapsible high heels, a concept that never made it past the drawing board. Then came baby clothes, specifically pants with built-in knee pads for crawling infants. He called them crawlers. Yes, knee pads for babies. Convinced he was onto something, Adam dropped out of college, just 4 credits shy of graduating, to turn crawlers into a full-fledged business. He rebranded it as Egg Baby in 2006, hoping to carve out a niche in the baby clothing market. It didn't work. The idea flopped. But if there was one thing Adam didn't do, it was give up. He just needed something bigger. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, Miguel McKelvey was growing up in a commune in Oregon, a world completely different from Adam's. No competition, no personal ambition, everything was shared and no one stood out. But Miguel didn't want to blend in. He became an architect. He designed retail spaces for a company, mastering the art of making buildings not just functional but cool. Unlike Adam, Miguel didn't need to be the loudest person in the room. His work spoke for itself. But here's where things get interesting. 2 men, 2 worlds, 2 minds shaped by opposite realities, and yet fate was about to pull them onto the same path. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to collide. And when they did, they would build something that would shake the business world to its core. But before they could change the way people worked, they had to meet. It started with a door, not a metaphorical one, an actual door, held open just little too long, stretching a conversation past its natural end. Most people would step aside, let the elevator close, move on, but not him. Miguel didn't know it yet, but the man in front of him was about to change the course of his life. It was just another evening, routine, uneventful. His co-worker Gil had invited him over to his apartment. Nothing unusual, just a quick visit. But as they climbed the stairs, there he was, shirtless, tanned, radiating energy like he had too much of it to contain. Talking, laughing, commanding attention like he owned the place. He wasn't just chatting with someone in the elevator, he was holding the door open, dragging the conversation out, refusing to let them leave without hearing one last thought. Who does that? Miguel watched, unsure what to make of him. The energy was huge, unfiltered, relentless. He had never met anyone like this before. Growing up in a quiet commune in Oregon, he wasn't used to this kind of presence. This wasn't just confidence, this was someone who took up space and expected the world to make room. Gil threw out a casual suggestion that they should talk. Miguel hesitated. Talk about what? Later, when they finally sat down, it wasn't small talk. Adam was already in motion, ideas flying, words spilling out like he had too many and not enough time. He wasn't pitching, he was thinking out loud. His hands moved as if he was pulling the ideas out of thin air. He was stuck on a problem. Office space. Businesses were wasting money, paying for desks no one was using, trapped in expensive leases that made no sense. Miguel felt it immediately. He had designed corporate offices. He had seen the empty floors, the wasted square footage, the ridiculous cost. He had watched companies pour money into space they barely used. Adam was already on to the solution before the problem had even settled. What if office space wasn't a commitment? What if it was flexible, shared, built around how people actually worked? Miguel's mind locked onto it. He could see the layouts, the flow, the movement. This could work. The idea hung between them, too big to ignore. Miguel didn't need time to think. He was in, but how would they make it real? Adam and Miguel weren't the kind of people who let ideas sit. The moment they landed on the concept of shared office space, it was all they could think about. Conversations turned into sketches. Sketches turned into plans. The vision was clear, a space that felt alive, flexible, built for the way people actually worked. But a vision wasn't enough. They needed a starting point, a place to bring it to life. Adam and Miguel weren't just looking for office space. They were trying to solve a problem. They wanted to create something alive. But ideas were easy. Execution? That was the real test. They needed a place to prove it. To take their sketches, their late night conversations, and their belief in a new way to work and turn it into something real. Then they found it. A worn down industrial building in Brooklyn. Cracked floors, rusted pipes, walls that had seen better days. But where others saw decay, Miguel saw potential. He ran his hands over the rough concrete, picturing it transformed. Recycled furniture, warm lighting, open spaces buzzing with ideas. He could build this. Adam, he wasn't just picturing the walls, he was picturing people filling them. Entrepreneurs, freelancers, dreamers, the ones trapped in long leases, sick of soulless offices. He could sell this. They called it Green Desk. A co-working space, but with a twist. Sustainability. Recycled everything. Energy efficient lighting, green materials, a movement, not just an office. The moment the doors opened, Adam was relentless. He talked to anyone who would listen, pitching Green Desk like it was the future of work itself.
We need desks.
Miguel, we're not selling desks.
We're selling an experience.
Miguel designed the spaces. Adam filled them. And it worked. The first tenants arrived, unsure at first, then excited. Soon the whole space was full. But something wasn't right. Adam leaned back one night, staring at the buzzing office, the open desks, the people working late. It was good, but was it big enough?
We opened it up, we put 7 ads on Craigslist. Within a week, it was 92% full, immediately cash flow positive. And literally within a few weeks, we realized that green is nice and co-working space is nice, but that's not a big business and that's not going to change the world.
Miguel saw it too. The concept worked, but something about it felt small. The sustainability angle. Nice, but what if they thought bigger? What if they didn't just rent out desks, but redefined work itself? They sat with the thought, let it linger. Then a decision, a bold one. Sell Green Desk, start over. Not just a business, a global empire of workspaces. But could they pull it off? They had built it once. Now they had to build it again. Bigger, bolder, without limits. Green Desk was proof that their idea worked, but it wasn't enough. Not for Adam, not for Miguel. Renting out desks? That was small thinking. What if they could tear down the entire concept of traditional office space and rebuild it from scratch? Because why did work have to feel like work? That's the question Adam and Miguel set out to answer in 2010 when they launched WeWork in Soho, New York City. And their idea? No, nothing only about office space. Imagine walking into a workspace that felt dynamic. Open layouts buzzing with energy. Stylish furniture that made you feel like you were in the lobby of a boutique hotel. Coffee bars brewing lattes while people connected over ideas. Spaces designed not just for working, but for belonging. That's what Adam and Miguel were creating. Not just offices, but experiences. Why did it work so well? Why did people flock to WeWork? Timing. That was everything. By 2010, the gig economy was exploding. Freelancers, startups, remote workers, they all needed a place to work, but they didn't want the stiff, old school vibe. WeWork offered them a lifestyle, a chance to feel part of a community, to network, to thrive. And Adam, he sold that vision like his life depended on it. His energy was electric, his charisma magnetic. He was not only pitching investors, he was actually promising them a revolution in how people lived and worked. And it worked, big time. By 2014, just 4 years after opening its first location in Soho, WeWork had a valuation of $5 billion. $5 billion. And the numbers didn't stop climbing. With every funding round, investors seemed to throw caution to the wind. By 2019, WeWork was valued at an eye-popping $47 billion, making it one of the most valuable startups in the world. But let's pause here. Think about a company that redefined workspaces, created a movement, and turned into an empire almost overnight. But every empire has its weak spots, and WeWork's foundation was starting to shake. We'll get there. But for now, think, how did WeWork manage to rise? For WeWork, the climb was breathtaking. So fast, it seemed almost too good to be true. What made WeWork so irresistible? Adam wasn't just selling office space, he was selling a dream. He flat out refused to call it a real estate company. No, this was a tech company, one that used data, innovation, and community to reshape how people worked and lived. Investors couldn't get enough. And no investor was more convinced than Masayoshi Son, the billionaire CEO of SoftBank. Son wasn't just looking for good businesses, he was looking for world-changing visionaries. And when he met Adam in December 2016, he saw exactly that. Their meeting was almost legendary. Son visited WeWork's New York headquarters, scheduled for a 2-hour tour. Instead, he just stayed for 12 minutes. That was all he needed. He invited Adam for a car ride to Trump Tower. And in just 30 minutes, Adam pitched him not just the future of work, but the future of cities, the future of human connection itself. It was so big, so grand, so ridiculously ambitious, and Son loved it. Right there in the car, he sketched out a $4.4 billion investment on his iPad. "You are crazy, but I like crazy," Son told him. With that, SoftBank became WeWork's biggest backer, pouring over $10 billion into the company over the next few years fueling an expansion that was nothing short of reckless. WeWork was not only growing, it was exploding onto the global stage, opening locations one by one in major cities worldwide, each one sleek, trendy, and buzzing with energy. But Adam wasn't done. He didn't just want to change work, he wanted to change everything. WeWork's ambitions spilled into new territories: housing, education, even fitness. He was not interested in building an office empire, but a lifestyle. That's how 3 new ventures were born: We Live, We Grow, and Rise by We. We Live blurred the lines between work and life. It offered co-living spaces designed like adult dorms, where residents not only rented apartments, they bought into a built-in social life and networking community. Then there was We Grow, a private school founded by Adam's wife, Rebecca, that promised to reimagine education itself. It largely focused on creativity, entrepreneurship, and wellness. Tuition, a staggering $42,000 a year. And finally, there was Rise by We, a high-end wellness club meant to reshape how people stayed healthy. Because in Adam's mind, why stop at work and living when you can control how people take care of themselves too? For a while, it seemed like everything Adam touched turned to gold. He lived large, the company's valuation kept soaring, investors kept throwing in money, and Adam, he kept selling the dream. But doesn't every meteoric rise come with turbulence? Let's pause for a moment. In today's fast-paced world, success isn't just about working hard. It's about staying ahead, solving complex problems, and delivering real results. Whether you are navigating business challenges, optimizing processes, or driving innovation, having the right skills is what sets you apart. That's where Advanced Innovation Group Pro Excellence, popularly known as AIGPE, comes in. We offer globally recognized certifications designed to elevate your expertise in process improvement, quality management, and business strategy. Our Six Sigma certifications, White Belt, Yellow Belt, Green Belt, and Black Belt empower professionals to master operational excellence. Plus, we provide specialized training in lean methodologies, Minitab analytics, project management, AI, and quality specializations, equipping you with practical skills you can apply immediately. AIGPE certifications are CPD accredited, and we are an authorized training partner of the Project Management Institute. We are also the recertification provider of choice for the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM, making our programs a valuable asset for your career growth. Whether you are an individual looking to advance or an organization seeking to upskill teams, AIGPE's courses provide industry-recognized expertise that drives results. And here's the best part. These programs from AIGPE are incredibly affordable. You can gain cutting-edge expertise for less than the cost of your daily coffee. Get started today. Click the link in the description to explore. Now, let's get back to our video. The company was expanding at a breakneck pace, but was it growing or just burning through money? Adam was living like a billionaire, but was the business actually making money? WeWork was supposed to be about work, but inside the company, work was starting to feel like an afterthought. Because behind closed doors, a very different culture was taking over. Here, nobody needed a rule book. Work hard, sure. But partying harder, that was non-negotiable. The office wasn't just a place to work. It felt like a nightclub disguised as a startup. Morning coffee replaced with tequila shots. Late night meetings more like all-night ragers. And at the center of it all, Adam, the CEO, the party starter, the guy who made excess not just normal but mandatory. Somewhere along the way, WeWork stopped being about work and started feeling like an endless festival. Meetings were scheduled, but showing up, that was optional. Like the time Adam was supposed to meet investors for a high-stakes deal, huge opportunity, big money on the table, but when the moment came, he was missing. Security had to break into his hotel room. He had partied too hard the night before and passed out. Mornings weren't much better. Employees remembered the smell of weed in the air. Adam rolling in late, looking like he had barely recovered. One morning, he showed up to a building tour with his CFO, stepping out of an SUV that reeked of marijuana. It wasn't even noon, but Adam forced the broker they were meeting to take 2 tequila shots before the tour even started. Then there were the flights. Oh, the flights. They were flying party zones. A jet charter company was told to always keep Don Julio 1942 tequila stocked. Flights had to be taken out of service after landing. Too much spilled alcohol, vomit, even passengers spitting tequila on each other. One flight got so out of control, the crew had to break out the oxygen masks. The entire cabin was filled with smoke for Adam and his guests. Drinking wasn't an afterthought at WeWork. It was the agenda. At all hands meetings, employees were not just encouraged to drink, but expected to. One meeting in 2016 took it to another level. Adam stood in front of the entire company and announced layoffs. People had just lost their jobs. The room was tense, silent. But instead of treating it like a serious moment, Adam had a different idea. A member of Run DMC, one of the biggest hip-hop groups of all time, walked onto the stage. The music blasted. Tequila shots were handed out. At another meeting, completely wasted Adam told employees to take more shots before randomly increasing the company's lease signing targets by over 20%. No reason, no strategy, just vibes. At this point, this wasn't a company anymore. It was something else entirely. If there was one event that captured everything wrong with WeWork's culture, it was summer camp, a multi-day festival disguised as a company retreat, and attendance mandatory. One manager learned the hard way when she left early. She was fired. In 2018, summer camp was bigger than ever. Ziplining, paddleboarding, mini horses, electronic dance music themed tents, pulsing with neon lights that made the whole thing feel more like a music festival than a corporate event. Employees wandered around with bottles of rose. Bartenders poured drinks like the supply was endless, and weed and harder drugs were everywhere. Most employees slept in 6% tents with shared bathrooms. Adam and his family, they stayed in a private compound, luxury trailers perched on the hill overlooking the festival below. It was excessive, it was surreal, but it was normal at WeWork. For years, no one questioned it, until people started speaking up. The drinking, the drugs, the reckless leadership, it was easy to ignore for those caught up in it. But some saw through the chaos and tried to fight back. And when they did, they were met with silence. In October 2018, former WeWork employee Ruby Anaya filed a lawsuit that shattered the illusion. She described a workplace that felt less like a billion-dollar company and more like a frat house, where drinking wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. But that wasn't the worst part. She claimed that sexual harassment happened right in the open. Women reported it. HR heard them. And nothing happened. No investigation, no action, just silence. More stories surfaced. More women spoke up. WeWork wasn't just reckless, it was dangerous. The world was finally starting to see the truth. The question wasn't whether WeWork was a real company. The question was, how much longer could it last? For years, the chaos inside WeWork was brushed aside, hidden beneath rapid expansion, soaring valuations, and Adam's larger-than-life charisma. The parties, the reckless spending, the blurred lines between leadership and indulgence, it was all part of the myth of WeWork. But myths only last as long as people believe in them. The lawsuit was the first real sign that something was deeply broken. The kind of thing that couldn't be laughed off or spun into another feel-good story about company culture. It exposed the truth, and once that truth was out, there was no containing it. But as WeWork scrambled to handle one scandal, Adam was creating another. This time, it wasn't about the parties or the drinking or even the toxic work environment. This time, it was about money. And it was about to shatter everything while it sounded like a joke. Adam Neumann, already worth hundreds of millions, had found a way to make even more. Not through innovation, not through strategy, through a single word. He trademarked the word we. Not WeWork, not We Live, not some new product, just we. And then he sold it back to his own company for $5.9 million, nearly $6 million, for a word that was already in its name. The moment the news broke, people didn't believe it at first. Investors checked the filing twice. Employees whispered in hallways, stunned. The media, they had a field day. Was this a scam? A loophole? How did no one catch this? The backlash was immediate. Investors demanded answers. Employees were embarrassed to even say where they worked. The company panicked. Adam gave the money back. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was the moment the illusion cracked. The moment everyone saw what they should have seen earlier. The moment everything started to fall apart. That's when the house of cards start collapsing. In 2019, WeWork took a bold step. It filed for an initial public offering or IPO. On the surface, it should have been a crowning moment. But instead of dazzling investors, the IPO filing revealed a nightmare hiding in plain sight. The company's prospectus was meant to inspire confidence, but it raised alarms instead. How could WeWork claim a $47 billion valuation while losing $1.9 billion every year? The numbers didn't just look bad, they looked impossible. And that wasn't all. The prospectus revealed something even more troubling. Adam's iron grip on the company through special voting shares that gave him total control, no matter how badly things went. Investors were stunned. As the scrutiny grew, so did the chaos around him. Within weeks of its IPO filing, WeWork's valuation plummeted. $47 billion turned into $10 billion almost overnight. Investors pulled back, confidence evaporated, and the empire that had been so carefully constructed started falling apart. SoftBank stepped in with a $9.5 billion bailout to stop the bleeding. But it was no victory. It was a last-ditch rescue mission. Adam was forced to step down as CEO. His leadership too toxic to continue.
WeWork ultimately pulled their 2019 IPO, and shortly after, Neumann resigned as CEO, walking away with more than $1 billion from SoftBank, a tech investor that acquired WeWork.
But here's the part that stung the most. He walked away with a $1.7 billion exit package. Let that sink in. $1.7 billion. For the guy who ran WeWork into the ground. How did that even happen? Couldn't SoftBank just kick him out? Well, not exactly. See, Adam wasn't just the CEO. He controlled the company. He had super voting shares, meaning he held the power over major company decisions. SoftBank, despite being WeWork's biggest investor, couldn't just push him aside. If they wanted to take over, they needed him to step down willingly. And Adam, he knew exactly how much leverage he had. So SoftBank paid him to leave. The deal, a $970 million stock buyout, a $500 million line of credit to pay off his personal loans, and get this, a $185 million consulting fee. Consulting? For the same guy who tanked the company? Investors were furious. But for SoftBank, this wasn't about rewarding failure. It was about damage control. WeWork was spiraling, and the only way to salvage the company was to get Adam out fast. The $1.7 billion payout, that was the price of removing him without a fight. But in the end, what did SoftBank really get? A broken company, a tarnished brand, and a CEO who walked away richer than ever. Now, what happens when the leader leaves, but the problems don't? Adam's exit wasn't the end of WeWork's struggles. It was just the beginning of its fight for survival. The company was still drowning in sky-high leases, locked into long-term contracts it couldn't escape. Office spaces sat eerily empty. Once active co-working hubs reduced to ghost towns. And the debt? It was more than a problem. A tidal wave. And then came 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic changed everything overnight. Suddenly, remote work wasn't just an option. It was the new normal. People weren't looking for community-driven office spaces anymore. They were working from home, from coffee shops, from anywhere but WeWork. And just like that, the very thing WeWork had promised to revolutionize how people work became irrelevant. Could a company built on human connection survive in a world where isolation was the norm? But amid all this, one question lingers. Where was Miguel in all of this? Yes, the other co-founder of WeWork. Was he just a silent partner in the shadow of Adam's larger-than-life personality? Or did he have a bigger role in the rise and the fall of the company? Let's set the record straight. Miguel was there from the very beginning. He wasn't some passive observer. He shared Adam's vision of building communities, not just workspaces. And while Adam sold that vision to investors and the world, Miguel was the architect, literally. His expertise in design and structure shaped the very spaces that made WeWork stand out. The open layouts, the creative details, the inviting atmosphere. That was Miguel's work. But here's the catch. As the company scaled, so did the spotlight. And it was almost always on Adam. Miguel had a quieter, more measured approach. One that often got lost in the noise of Adam's bold, brash confidence. While Adam made headlines for tequila-fueled meetings and private jet trips, Miguel stayed in the background. He wasn't the face of WeWork, even though he was just as crucial to its foundation. So, why didn't Miguel step in when things started to unravel? Could his grounded leadership have steadied the ship? It's a tough question. By the time the bubble started to burst, the company was hurtling towards disaster, and Adam's larger-than-life presence made it nearly impossible for anyone else to control. Miguel eventually left WeWork quietly in 2020, walking away from the dream he had helped build. But his story is a reminder. Sometimes the loudest voice isn't the one doing the most work. Miguel shaped the physical spaces and the original ethos of WeWork. Yet his role was overshadowed by the chaos of Adam's decisions. But it lets us think. What if the quieter voice had been given a chance to lead? Would the story of WeWork have ended differently? It's a question that lingers even as the dust settles. By 2023, the foundation had completely crumbled. The warning signs were everywhere. The company made a chilling admission. There was substantial doubt about its ability to stay afloat. Investors braced for the inevitable. And then in November 2023, it finally happened. WeWork filed for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A company once valued at $47 billion had come crashing down. So here's the real question. What actually killed WeWork? Was it blind ambition? A broken model? A leadership culture that spiraled out of control? Or was it all of the above? What's left now are empty office spaces, once thriving, now forgotten. A dream that soared too fast, flew too high, and burnt out before it could land. I hope you enjoyed the story of WeWork. But if you're looking for an even more jaw-dropping business saga, check out this video right here. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. I will see you there in seconds. Cheers.